It took me months to finally hit delete on my Facebook account after the breakup with Chris. He'd always been controlling, jealous, and even after we split, he couldn't let go. The constant messages, trying to keep tabs on me, it was suffocating. So I deleted everything. Clean slate. Life got better after that. I moved to a new apartment, found a new job, started reconnecting with friends. The absence of social media was refreshing. No more obsessing over posts, no more feeling like I was being watched. It felt good to be off the grid. But a few months later, I got the urge to hop back on Facebook, just to check in. Everyone used it, and I was missing out on events, updates, things like that. I figured I could reactivate my account and keep things light. No posting, no photos. Just lurk a little, right? As soon as I reactivated my profile, I got a friend request within minutes. That was weird in itself. My account was basically dormant for months. The request was from a profile named John Daniels. The name didn't ring any bells, but the profile picture, something about it made me stop. The guy in the photo looked familiar, a little too familiar. The same dark hair, the same sharp jawline, except the face was off like someone had morphed it. The more I stared, the more I saw it. It was Chris. It had to be. He changed the name and altered the photo just enough, but it was him. At first I thought, no way, it's got to be a coincidence. But then I started getting messages. Hey Emma, long time no talk. How's the new apartment? My stomach dropped. I never told anyone from my old life about the new place. I hadn't even posted about it. I ignored the message, but then another one came through the next day. You still go to that cafe downtown, right? Love the coffee there. I hadn't even realized Chris knew about my favorite cafe. I never took him there. That's when I started to panic. I blocked the profile. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. A week later, I got a new request, different name. Same face, slightly altered, and the messages started again. I saw you at the grocery store the other day, looking good. That's when I knew it wasn't just a coincidence. Chris was watching me, stalking me online, maybe even in real life. He was using fake profiles to keep tabs on me, slipping into my life again, manipulating everything. I couldn't take it anymore. I started isolating myself, terrified to go anywhere. I reached out to some mutual friends, trying to figure out what was going on. Some of them had been getting weird messages from him too. Fake profiles that seemed friendly at first, but quickly turned intrusive, asking about me, where I was, what I was up to. He was still in control, lurking behind his screen. I had to confront him. I was scared, but I couldn't keep living like this. I couldn't let him keep controlling my life. So I gathered my courage and sent him a message, one of the fake accounts I knew he was using. We need to talk, Chris. I know it's you. The typing bubble appeared almost immediately. A reply popped up. I've always known where you are, Emma. My heart pounded in my chest. I rushed to lock all my doors and close the windows. This had to stop now. I was going to call the police. As I grabbed my phone, it buzzed with another message. I'm not the only one keeping an eye on you. My blood froze. What the hell did that mean? I stared at the screen, the words sinking in slowly. Before I could react, I heard a soft creak from the hallway behind me. My phone buzzed again. Turn around. I spun on my heel, heart in my throat, eyes scanning the room. The dim light barely illuminated the hallway, but there, standing in the shadows, was a figure. It wasn't Chris. It was someone else. A man I didn't recognize. Then it hit me. Chris wasn't the only one stalking me. He had sent someone else to do his dirty work. He had been watching from behind the screen, but this time he wasn't alone. I froze, staring at the figure in the dim hallway. My pulse pounded in my ears, and my breath caught in my throat. This wasn't Chris, but whoever it was stood there, motionless, watching me just as he had online. I wanted to scream, but fear paralyzed me. The figure took a step forward, and the floor creaked again. Instinctively, I backed up, my hands fumbling for my phone. I had to call someone, anyone. The stranger's face was still hidden in shadow, but I could feel his eyes on me, cold and unblinking. Who are you? I stammered, finally finding my voice. What do you want? There was silence. He didn't respond. Just another step forward, slow, deliberate. I felt the wall press against my back, no more room to retreat. My phone buzzed in my hand again. I glanced down, expecting another message from Chris, but this one was different. A new number, one I didn't recognize. It simply read, "Get out now." I blinked, confused. My head swirled. Was someone else warning me? But before I could react, the figure stopped, still halfway in the shadows. He finally spoke, his voice low, almost a whisper. "I'm not here to hurt you." My heart raced, but something in his tone, detached, almost robotic, gave me pause. He wasn't advancing any further. He seemed hesitant. "What do you want?" I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady. "Did Chris send you?" The figure didn't answer immediately. He reached into his pocket, slowly, and for a moment, I thought he might pull out a weapon. My body tensed, but instead, he pulled out a phone. "He's been watching you through your phone," the man said quietly, holding the device up like it explained everything. "Tracking you through your Facebook, your apps. He wanted to know your every move." I stared at the phone in disbelief. "What do you mean?" "Chris hired me to keep tabs on you, but I'm not the only one. There are others, people he's using, manipulating. You're not just a target for him. He's controlling more people than you realize, through social media, through fake profiles. Everything's connected." My stomach twisted. It made sense now. The strange requests, the cryptic messages from fake accounts. It wasn't just Chris. It was a network of people he'd pulled into his obsession. And this guy, this stranger standing in my hallway, was just one of them. "But why?" I asked, trying to understand. "Why are you telling me this now?" The man hesitated again. "I've been watching too long. This has gone too far. He's not just stalking you. He's obsessed, and it's dangerous. I don't want to be a part of it anymore." I didn't know whether to believe him or not. My instincts screamed to run, to call the police, but there was something raw, something desperate in his voice. Maybe he was telling the truth. "You can stop it," he continued, taking another cautious step forward, his tone softer now. "Cut him off. You need to disappear, completely. Shut down everything. Change your phone, get off social media. That's the only way." I stood there, absorbing his words. Disappearing. Could I really do that? Just vanish from my own life? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it might be the only option. Taking a deep breath, I straightened up, forcing myself to stay calm. "How do I know you're not lying? That this isn't just another one of Chris's tricks?" He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something genuine in his eyes. Regret, maybe even guilt. Because I'm done with him. After tonight, I'm gone too. I won't be in your life, and neither will he. But you have to make that choice. I stared at him for a long moment, then slowly nodded. "Okay." The man turned and walked toward the door. Just before leaving, he paused and said, "Start fresh, and he'll never find you again." And then he was gone, leaving me standing alone in the dim hallway, the phone still buzzing faintly in my hand. That night, I made the hardest decision of my life. I shut down every account, deleted every app, and wiped my phone clean. I moved the next week, changed my number, and left no trace behind. It felt like losing a part of myself, but it also felt like freedom. Months went by, and I waited for that familiar fear to creep back in. But it didn't. I was truly gone, off the grid. Chris had no way of finding me. In the end, I realized something important. I wasn't just disappearing from Chris's life. I was reclaiming my own. And that was the only way to be free. Half-heartedly scrolling through Facebook. Work was slow and I needed a distraction. That's when I got a notification. "You've been tagged in a photo." I clicked on it, expecting it to be from one of my friends. But when the photo loaded, I froze. It was a group shot from a party. People were smiling, holding drinks. But the thing is, I wasn't there. I didn't know anyone in the photo. And yet, there I was, blurry, in the background. Barely visible, but definitely me. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe it was just someone who looked like me. I brushed it off, untagged myself, and went on with my day. But the next day, another notification popped up. Again, I'd been tagged in a photo from a different event. And once again, I didn't know a single person in the picture. But there I was, blurry in the background. This time, it creeped me out. How was I in these photos? I hadn't gone to any of these places. I started scrolling through the tags, clicking on the profiles. It didn't make sense. The people in the photos had no mutual friends with me. Some of the profiles looked fake. Generic photos, minimal info. I tried reporting the photos, but nothing happened. They just kept reappearing. Days turned into weeks, and more photos started showing up. Each time, I was in the background, a little clearer than before. It wasn't just group photos anymore. There were random shots of cafes, parks, city streets, and I was always there, in the distance, as if I was being followed. I started getting paranoid. Everywhere I went, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I'd look over my shoulder, scan the people around me, but I never saw anything suspicious. But the photos kept coming, different profiles, different places, and there I was, always tagged. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to dig deeper, pulling up every profile that had tagged me. Most of them were clearly fake, but there was one that stood out, a woman named Sarah Connors. She looked normal enough, no red flags at first. But when I scrolled through her photos, I felt a knot form in my stomach. There were hundreds of photos, and I was in almost every single one of them. I scrolled faster, heart racing. The pictures were of places I'd been, my favorite coffee shop, the gym, even outside my apartment. But I never saw this woman, not once. How did she know where I'd be? How was she always one step ahead? I checked the timestamps. They were posted in real time, meaning she was uploading them just after taking them. Terrified, I messaged her. "Who are you? Why are you following me?" No reply. I stared at my screen, waiting for the three little dots to appear, but they never did. My phone buzzed with another notification, another tag. It was a photo taken from right outside my building, looking up at my window. This time, I wasn't just blurry. I was clear, standing at my window, looking directly down at her. My heart pounded in my chest. I rushed to the window, yanked the curtains aside, but the street was empty. I was breathing heavily, on the edge of a full-blown panic attack, when I got a new message. It was from Sarah. "You've always been so predictable, James." I stared at the message, my mind racing. Predictable. How could she know so much about me? Then I heard it, a soft knock at the door, my apartment door. I froze. I hadn't told anyone where I lived. No one knew about Sarah except me. Slowly, I crept toward the door, every step heavy with dread. I peered through the peephole, expecting the worst. But there was no one there. I breathed a sigh of relief and stepped back. That's when my phone buzzed again. It was another tag. Shaking, I opened the notification. It was a new photo, one taken from inside my apartment. And this time, I was looking directly at the camera. I felt a chill run down my spine as I turned around, realizing the truth. I wasn't being watched. I was the one taking the photos. It felt like the room had closed in on me. I stood there, staring at the phone, my breath shallow, my hands trembling. How could this be happening? How could I have taken these photos without knowing it? I didn't own a camera besides my phone, and I certainly wasn't snapping photos of myself in secret. The knock came again, louder this time. My heart was still racing, but something clicked in my mind. I had to know. I had to end this. I forced myself to walk to the door, my hand hovering over the doorknob. Another knock, soft, almost patient. It was too late to run. With a deep breath, I opened the door. There was no one there, just the empty hallway of my apartment building. I looked down both ends, my pulse still hammering in my ears, but no shadowy figure, no mysterious stranger, only silence. I closed the door and backed into the apartment, shutting off every light. I needed to think. If no one was physically here, then this was something else. My phone buzzed again, another photo. This time, it was an image of my bedroom, taken from the foot of the bed. I was in it, fast asleep. My stomach churned. How had I not noticed? I scanned the room for cameras, nothing out of the ordinary. The eerie feeling of someone tracking my every move had never felt so real, but it didn't make sense. I sat down, forcing myself to breathe, to think. That's when I remembered. The app. My Facebook account. A couple of months ago, I had clicked on a seemingly harmless link in a private message, a funny video from someone I thought was an old friend. At the time, nothing unusual happened, so I'd forgotten about it. But what if that's where it started? I dug into my phone settings, scrolling frantically through permissions, apps, and downloads. Then I found it, an unrecognized third-party app, one I had never consciously installed. Its permissions were alarming. Access to my camera, photos, location, and even the ability to post on my Facebook without my knowledge. My hands shook as I deleted the app and changed every password I could think of. I checked for any other suspicious apps, cleaned up my profiles, and enabled every layer of privacy I could. My phone buzzed again, but this time it was a notification from Facebook. My account had been logged out from all devices. That had to be it. I leaned back in my chair, exhausted, hoping I had finally found the answer. As the days passed, the photos stopped appearing. No more tags, no more eerie images of me in the background, no more mysterious knocks. I had cut off the source of whatever was tracking me, but the feeling of being watched lingered longer than I wanted to admit. Weeks later, I started feeling normal again. But I couldn't shake the deeper realization that hit me through this ordeal. How much of my life had I unknowingly surrendered to these invisible digital hands? How much of myself had I left vulnerable without even noticing? The resolution wasn't just deleting an app or securing my phone. It was knowing that, in this hyper-connected world, privacy could slip through our fingers at any moment. I had to be more cautious, because the next time I might not be so lucky. But for now, the nightmare was over, and I finally slept with both eyes closed.